All right, let's get into it. Today we're tackling what is, hands down, the most controversial season of Stranger Things. We're talking about Season 3. It was louder, it was brighter, and for a lot of fans, it felt like a completely different show. So let's break down the summer of '85 and figure out why it split the audience right down the middle.
You gotta love the honesty here, right? This quote from our source, last movie Outpost, just nails the whole vibe around Season 3. It has this reputation, you know? Some people absolutely love it for the fun and the over-the-top spectacle. But for others, well, they see it as the exact moment the show kind of lost its way.
So yeah, that's the big question we're digging into. What was it about that summer in Hawkins that got everyone so worked up? We're going to investigate everything. The absolutely wild plot, some of the sharpest criticisms, and of course, the truly incredible moments that our source says make the whole season worthwhile. Okay, so picture this. It's 1985. School is out for summer, the kids are all starting to pair off and grow up, and the shiny new Starcourt Mall is the neon-lit center of the universe. But, this is Hawkins. So of course, just beneath all that bright, poppy surface, something really nasty is starting to wake up.
So here's the quick and dirty rundown. Deep, deep under the food court, a secret squad of Russian scientists is trying to rip a new gate open to the Upside Down. In doing so, they accidentally reactivate the Mind Flayer, and this time it finds a brand new host in Billy Hargrove, and starts, absorbing the poor citizens of Hawkins to build itself a new body.
And that new body? Wow, it is something else. Our source calls it the Meat Flayer, and it's a massive leap from the shadow monster of Season 2. This thing is disgustingly physical. It's grotesque, it's made of melted down human flesh, and honestly it's like something straight out of a classic 80s body horror flick like The Thing or The Blob.
But it wasn't just the monster that was different. The whole vibe of the show completely changed in Season 3. It went through this massive and, pretty controversial shift in its look and feel, and it really changed the dynamic.
This really breaks it down perfectly. The first two seasons, that was that cold, dark, almost 70s version of the 80s. Think autumn, shadows, Amblin-style horror. But Season 3? That is the 80s. We're talking bright neon, Madonna on the radio, giant shopping malls, and blazing summer sun. It's got this hopeful, poppy feel that, as our source points out, doesn't always mix well with a creepy horror show.
And that tonal shift brings us to one of the biggest criticisms from the source material. The argument goes that even though the season is set in 1985, it was made in 2019, right in the middle of what the source calls the peak woke era, and that this really seeped into how the characters were written.
Now, just to be super clear, these are the words and observations directly from the last movie Outpost article. It describes the female characters as nagging girl bosses who are pretty much always right and constantly putting the guys down. And on the flip side, the male characters, especially our boy Steve Harrington, were often reduced to being the butt of the joke. The critique here is that it felt like modern commentary shoehorned into an 80s setting.
The other major issue people had? Oh yeah, the Russians. Specifically, the absolute logistical nightmare of their secret underground lair. As our source puts it, to buy into this plot, you needed a serious suspension of disbelief.
I mean, let's just stop and think about this for a second. We're supposed to believe they built a massive, miles-deep super bunker right under a shopping mall in less than a year in the middle of Indiana, during the height of the Cold War, and all with the help of just one sleazy mayor, and apparently without a single local noticing anything weird? For a lot of viewers, even in a show with monsters, that was just a step too far.
And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? When you put it all together, the jarring change in tone, the character stuff, the totally bonkers spy plot, you can kind of see why this was a season where some fans just decided they were done. But that is not the whole story.
Because, and our source is very clear on this, despite all of those problems, Season 3 is not a total write-off, not by a long shot. In fact, the argument is that when this season gets something right, it gets it spectacularly, unbelievably right.
So, let's talk about the season's own redemption arc. Let's look at the strengths, the things that made that final battle of Starcourt Mall an absolute all-timer.
Okay, so our source points to 3 huge wins that basically saved the season. First up, the monster. That Meat Flayer was just a horrifying masterpiece of practical and visual effects. It felt real and it was terrifying. Second, the characters, and specifically Billy's journey from a one-note bully to this tragic, complex hero. And third, the finale. Taking away Eleven's powers was a brilliant move that raised the stakes for everyone else, and it all builds to Billy's heroic sacrifice, one of the most emotional gut punches of the entire series. So, with all its crazy highs and lows, where does Season 3 actually fit in the grand scheme of Stranger Things?
It's easy to write it off as just a fun summer blockbuster, but it's way more important than that. It's the bridge that connects the beginning of the story to the end. I mean, when you look at the timeline here, you see that Season 3 is the big explosive finale to the whole Mind Flayer chapter. But think about what happens because of it. Hopper is gone, the Byers family leaves Hawkins, and Eleven loses her powers. Every single one of those things is a critical piece of the puzzle that sets the stage for the much darker, scarier threat of Vecna in Season 4.
Which brings us back to the ultimate question. Was Season 3 a bright, flashy, day-glow misstep that almost derailed the whole show? Or was its laser focus on character growth, on sacrifice, and that spectacular, emotional finale the very thing that gives the entire Stranger Things saga its heart? The debate is definitely still raging on that one.